Hello and welcome back to Patriot Contraptions. Today we are working on this 1974 McGregor Venture 17 swing rudder, and this thing has been through a lot. Obviously about 50 years of use, and I don't think it had much restoration put into it at all over those 50 years. So today I'm hoping to bring a little bit more life back to it, let it have a lot more fun with a lot more people. So first off, I went ahead and I took the rudder apart to its three different sections. You can see here, for those of you not familiar with how a swing rudder works, that means that the middle section here is actually two pieces and it swings up if you're in shallow water. Now here you can see the handle on top, the upper portion in the middle there, and then the bottom of the rudder on the bottom of this image. So these are the three parts I'm going to be working on, and the first step I decided to do was just sand it down. Now you can sand it, or I've heard you can use a heat gun. I didn't have a heat gun, so I went ahead and sanded it down, wore my respirator the entire time because I really didn't want to be breathing this stuff. Who knows what's on there after 50 years. Then I went and built this paint booth. Now this paint booth proved to be invaluable because this stuff that I was coating with, this epoxy, was just extremely smelly, and it was like 0 degrees outside. So basically I took a bathroom fan, hooked it up to the outside, took an old light bulb, hooked it up, and then I also 3D printed these little triangles to hold up the rudder underneath. And as you can see, the mahogany looks really good here. It turned out great. It did have some minor cracks in it, but that's what the epoxy is for. So this is a 3-part epoxy. You've got 2 part resin and then 1 part hardener. So you mix that all up, and then you go ahead and coat the actual rudder with it. And what I should have done is I should have coated this in a lot thinner coats. Like, take your time, do thin coats if you're ever using this stuff, because I put it on way too thick, and as you'll see in a minute, that caused a few issues. But it took about 48 hours to dry total for each coat that I put on. It could have just been that it was a little colder in my basement, I'm not sure, but it was better than doing it outside, where it was like 0 degrees at the time. So I coated it with 2 full coats, and in a couple sections I ended up coating multiple times because the cracks were in there and it was just soaking up the epoxy. And also to be noted, I let this thing dry in the basement for about 2 months before I actually went and coated it. And as you can see here, this is at the end of the epoxy coating. Now I could have probably used it like this, but there is one minor problem. These little bubbles that need taken off, which I ended up sanding off, and also I that this stuff actually yellows with age in the sun, and it's not necessarily the best to have the epoxy exposed to the sun. So what I wanted to do was I decided to sand off those little bubbles of epoxy, smooth it down with some 220 grit sandpaper, and then coat the entire rudder in varnish. So varnish is a little different. It has more UV preventative stuff, I've heard, and it also gives you a nice shiny finish when you're done because it's like a gloss varnish. So what you're going to see here is I've got the rudder handle sanded down, and basically this is the step where I'm going to apply the varnish. You can see the epoxy is still on there. I've just buffed it up a little bit, and then I'm going to coat it with the varnish. Now the varnish I was a lot more careful with, and it's super easy to put on. Like, this stuff is so thin as far as viscosity goes that you want to put on. And I did 3 light coats on the entire rudder, and a couple sections I may have done even 4 coats on, but it turned out absolutely phenomenal time I put the entire thing back together. As you can see here, the handle's nice and shiny. The rudder itself is phenomenal. It just pulled out the red in the mahogany with those extra coats. So you've got 2 coats of epoxy on there total, and then you've got 3 coats of varnish on the entire thing, and this thing just glows when you look at it. It's so cool. I'm very happy with how this turned out. It was a really kind of an easy project overall, but a really rewarding project too. So hope you guys enjoyed this video. Stay tuned for more like it, and I'll be doing other sailboat restoration videos in the future too. Have a fantastic day. Patriot Contraptions signing out.